We need to talk about Diddy and what's going on. Do you know his legal team is now trying to rewrite the Constitution? They're even acting like they can rewrite words in the dictionary. They are literally pop-locking and playing in the court's face. But guess what? Sit down, because we need to break this down. They might actually have a slight point. I know, it sounds crazy, but we need to talk through every possibility. Here's the deal. Diddy's team is making a ridiculous argument, semantics really, that because no one ever directly called the women prostitutes, his conviction should be overturned. Now, if they can prove this, I'd honestly have to side-eye the prosecution, because technically they never outright said prostitute. They used words like escorts, dancers, entertainers. And as Maureen Comey said in her closing arguments, come on, we all know what this was. Also, let's be clear. Diddy was found not guilty on sex trafficking charges. Not guilty of being a pervert, abuser, or manipulator. He actually admitted to plenty of that in court. But here's where it gets tricky. On appeal, there's a rule. You can't be convicted of something that wasn't clearly defined in the charges. The Mann Act specifically deals with transporting people across state lines for prostitution. The key is intent. The government has to prove that before booking the travel, prostitution was already the plan. That's a very narrow standard, but it matters. If travel was booked first, and then things turned sexual later, it may still be prostitution, but not under the Mann Act. And this is a glaring hole. How did the prosecution leave this open? Now, all hope isn't lost. The appeals court could look at this the same way we are in the court of public opinion and say, be serious. We know what happened. But Diddy's team is banking on this technicality. Let's be real. The only people defending Diddy are abusers or people invested in rewriting history. Sure, he was found not guilty of RICO and sex trafficking. I don't agree with that verdict at all. I think it was weak and misguided. But that's where we are. Now he's trying to undo even the charges he was convicted on. And while I don't blame him for trying, there's a chance it could actually work. His team is arguing that the Mann Act conviction doesn't hold because the prosecution never proved intent at the time travel was booked. Here's what could happen. Judge Aaron could say, I don't care, it was obvious, and uphold the conviction. Or Judge Aaron could agree that the case wasn't airtight under the law and order a new trial. If there's a new trial, that's bad for the victims. Why? Because all the additional evidence and admissions from the first trial won't automatically be allowed in. The jury would only hear the narrow facts about transporting people across state lines. That could make it a much weaker case. Now, Judge Aaron has already said domestic violence is violence, and it's an aggravating factor in sentencing. So I think she'll likely reject the request for a new trial and move to sentencing. If Diddy appeals anyway, the case could take 1 to 2 years to reach the appeals court. In the meantime, he could ask to be released on bail while waiting. But even then, he's still looking at least another year or 2 in jail. Here's another wrinkle. Even if there's a new trial, the jury pool will be different this time. Given the backlash to the first trial, prosecutors might be much more aggressive in jury selection, and the judge will be less lenient with Diddy's defense tactics. And let's not forget, public opinion is heavily against him now. Any new jury may come in already skeptical of him. Diddy's team isn't considering that even if they win a new trial, the jury may still convict. And what if key witnesses like Cassie or others refuse to testify again? That could also shift the case in his favor. So here's Diddy's playbook. Push for a new trial. If denied, appeal immediately. Argue the government failed to prove intent. Under the Mann Act. Try to get bail while the appeal is pending. I've talked to several legal experts, and most say his arguments are weak, except for this one technicality about intent. That's the only part of his appeal with real weight. We're waiting to see how the prosecution responds and what Judge Aaron decides. Personally, I think she'll reject the new trial request and stick to sentencing. But after that, it's anyone's guess. At the end of the day, regardless of legal loopholes, Diddy refuses to take accountability. The jury didn't hold him accountable, but we will, through public opinion, through social media, through keeping the pressure on. Because whether it's legally defined as sex trafficking or not, the way he treated women was abusive, exploitative, and inexcusable. He cannot be allowed to walk away without consequences.